And watching all of you, I've seen each of your humiliating defeats at the hooves of 6 puny ponies.
No, that's wrong.
Hello everyone, my name's Aloubell, and while My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is my favorite show of all time, it isn't perfect and has a few annoying issues. One of them being their annoying insistence on keeping the status quo.
But Aloe, they literally change the status quo almost every season. There's a solid canon with cause and effect that lingers for the entire show. How could you say that they stick to the status quo?
You are correct in saying that. However, as the self-declared president of the Starlight Glimmer fan club, I can't stand with the injustice of the show trying to insist that she isn't part of the main group when she's had almost nothing but main character energy and special treatment since she reformed. Not to mention how she saved Equestria multiple times without so much as a stained glass window in her honor, as well as the others who helped her, such as in the season 6 finale. Don't get me wrong, she had a beautiful arc, but there seemed to be a hesitance to consider her a part of the main characters as the official 7th Ranger, so to speak. Why she wasn't officially considered part of the main group is anyone's guess. Probably the status quo thing, or not wanting to add a new element, even though a 7th element was added in the human world for Equestria girls, which would have been a good excuse to give Starlight the pony equivalent of that element, but whatever. Or not wanting to change the theme song, despite the fact that Starlight would bring balance back to the group by adding another unicorn. But regardless, if the writers didn't want this confusion, they shouldn't have given her such special attention. Dog, she helped save Equestria multiple times, was included in each premiere and finale after her introduction, went on the group camping trip, has her own main villain, was one of the founding members and staff of the School of Friendship, was included in the final group hug, was freaking included in the shot when Twilight established the Council of Friendship. I know I'm not delusional. Okay. For all of my Pretty Little Liars fans, Starlight is like the Mona of the group. Clearly a main character, but is not allowed in most promotional images, nor given an official designation by the showrunners, despite how she's written. Having said all that, this video isn't actually about Starlight. Exclusively. I already made one video specifically for her. Please go watch that when you get the chance. No, the general gist of this video is me highlighting some specific instances where the MLP writers try to tell us one thing, try to get us to really believe it, despite evidence saying otherwise. There were attempts made to get us to forget some inconvenient truths, just so that they could keep the main 6, and in some instances, specifically Twilight, as the center of this universe, despite this not actually being the case. I get it. They are the main faces of the show and the most marketable characters. They are the characters we follow more than anyone else. And 8 or 9 times out of 10, they are the solution. But when the show reached a point where the writers' insistence on pushing these 6 undermined the achievements of others and stopped them from getting properly acknowledged and recognized, then I have a problem. But before we get into it, special thanks to Happy Goof, Atomic Works, and my channel members, as well as others who donated over on Ko-fi for supporting me and my channel. If you want to support me as well and help keep this channel alive, you too can become a channel member by clicking join, donate on Ko-fi, or commission me for a chibi on Artistry. Links down below.
And watching all of you, I've seen each of your humiliating defeats at the hooves of 6 puny ponies.
Just to make my point, I'll focus on this line of Grogars from the Season 9 premiere. It's an incorrect statement, and you'll soon see why. Chrysalis was first taken out by Cadance in Shining Armor. Her anger initially should have been towards them. And then on her second go-round, Starlight and her friends dealt with her. The main 6 actually never defeated Chrysalis, except for in the series finale. Chrysalis technically got her revenge on Cadance in Shining Armor in the Season 7 finale when she managed to invade the Crystal Empire. And she was understandably mad at and held a grudge towards Starlight after said finale. While the show did a decent enough job hammering home how much Chrysalis didn't like Starlight, and even delivering on it with their rematch, it was weird having her direct some of her hostility towards Twilight in the season 9 episode Frenemies, even though Twilight wasn't her biggest problem. And now that I think about it, it would even make more sense for Chrysalis to be mad at Thorax and the other changelings for turning their backs on her. She's like their mother, from what we can tell. She wasn't nearly salty enough about that, nor did she even try to interact with them ever again. I don't know why I didn't realize that until now, but that's seriously something that should have been addressed. They chose to make her have an issue with Twilight, of all people, compared to her actual children with an actual connection to her and who somewhat contributed to her downfall. Sure, maybe she interprets their betrayal as brainwashing of some sort, but that's unlikely because she was fully ready to punish Thorax as she believed he made his choice of his own free will. So, missed opportunity? And if this is addressed in the comics, I don't want to hear it because its canon is questionable, and regardless, it needed to happen in the show because it makes the whole Chrysalis situation look even worse with her wasting energy on Twilight and the main six, who, again, have never defeated her at this point, instead of dealing with the real issues. Anywho, at first glance, this seems like an issue of inserting the main character where she doesn't belong just to keep her relevant. But I'll give this one a slight pass, since she did have some experience and interactions with Twilight from back when she was impersonating Cadance. If Twilight didn't rescue Cadance, Cadance in Shining Armor wouldn't have been able to save the day. So that's fine-ish, I guess. But even then, I still think we're giving this whole situation a bit too much grace. Twi and her friends ultimately weren't the ones who stopped Chrysalis until the very, very end. Hence the others who did deserve more recognition. Shining Armor and Cadance got a stained glass window to immortalize their victory. Starlight and her friends didn't. They only got pink heart medals. Yeah, that sounds fair. Sombra was first taken out by Celestia and Luna, and then 1,000 years later was taken out by Spike and Cadance, and the Love and Light of the citizens of the Crystal Empire. He actually had no interactions with the main six until season 9, and yet, Grogar said what he said. Sombra should have immediately interjected and said that he was actually defeated by 3 princesses and a dragon. He should have had no grudge on the main six. This was Grogar wrongly giving credit to the wrong characters. Because status quo.
But Aloe, the show does acknowledge that Cadance and Spike defeated Sombra. They got a stained glass window, and Spike was forever remembered as Spike the Brave and Glorious by the citizens of the Crystal Empire. So you can't really say that the main six stole his thunder.
I guess that's technically true, but Grogar's line still bugs me. The writers remembered the whole Spike being the Crystal Empire's hero only up to a certain point. When it came down to the wire and these villains were assembled to not only get revenge but also compare grievances, it felt wrong to not give their actual foes the credit they deserved. If they're so bent on getting revenge, wouldn't it make more sense for them to have their sights set on the ones who actually wronged them? But because this is the main six show, we can only say they are the only heroes, and that sucks. Now, you could make the argument that they're merely targeting the most threatening ponies and the ones who are in the way of their victory, which, valid, but that doesn't seem to fully be the case. I refer you again to Grogar's line. He implies that those 6 were the only ones who put a stop to their plans. And in most of their cases, that's plain incorrect. Tyrek is the only villain in the Legion of Doom who can say that the main 6 defeated him. He can be mad at them because they take full credit. Cozy Glow's plans were foiled by a tree and 6 of her fellow School of Friendship students. Why isn't she mad at them? She quite literally incapacitated the main 6 and Starlight to where they weren't issues. If anything, it was the tree, the students, and the royal guard she should have an issue with, and thus Grogar's line doesn't apply to her either.
But Aloe, the main 7 were indirectly involved in her downfall because they were the ones who brought the student 6 together and taught them how to get along. It was their school that helped foster the bond that stopped Cozy.
That might be true, but no one is thinking like that. No one thinks like that. That's like saying I found some dirt in my salad at a restaurant, which means I should be mad at the farmers who grew the lettuce for my salad when it was the chefs at the restaurant who didn't properly wash it. That's a bad argument.
But Aloe, don't forget about who Grogar really is. There's a chance that he didn't know the details of some of these villains' defeat. I don't really see him casually talking about those battles to anyone. Of course, a certain someone could have always told him, so I'm a bit surprised that they didn't. But, besides, he was trying to accomplish something that more or less directly required the main 6 to be front and center.
That's a valid point, but still, he definitely and personally knew about the Starlight situation with Chrysalis, and he knows how important Starlight is to the group, so to exclude her is insulting. But I'm not going to blame him, I'm going to blame the writers. Not to mention in the final episode, we get a newspaper article mentioning how the main 6 ultimately saved the day against the Legion of Doom, with their pictures being front and center. I'm sorry, but taking out those 3 was a group effort that involved more than 6 ponies and a dragon. Even if you wanted to ignore the literal army of creatures that came to help out, which is understandable because who wants to draw all of that? At the very least, there could have been an acknowledgement or a group shot of the main 6, Spike, Starlight, the princesses, Discord, the student 6, and the pillars to show who really contributed to this win. The main 6 weren't the only victors, so to do that and erect a statue only in their honor belittles the hard work of others who helped bring peace to Equestria and beyond. The world and universe does not revolve around the main 6. They do a lot for society, you can't take that away from them, but they aren't the only ones who keep it safe and running. Give the other characters their due credit. Please. The show was a bit annoying to imply that absolutely everything was because of the main 6 and them only. I love the main 6, I really do, but that doesn't sit right with me. Oh, and let's add on a bonus point. When Starlight was still a villain and came back for revenge, I always found it odd how she came to exact her revenge on Twilight instead of Fluttershy, when Fluttershy was the one who tricked her and threw the water on her that revealed her cutie mark, which ended up destroying her talentless utopia. Sure, she could also be mad at the 4 ponies in our town who helped out the main 6, but if she has to be mad at someone in the main 6, Fluttershy makes more sense. You'd think of everyone in the group, Fluttershy would be her target. But because Twilight is the main character, we can't not have her be directly involved in the finale, despite it not making as much sense. You can make the argument, though, that Twilight was involved in Starlight's revenge plot because, 1, the plot involved an item in Twilight's home, and 2, if anyone was going to mess up Starlight's plan, it was probably going to be Twilight, so it was best to get her stuck in the time loop so she couldn't cause any issues. My only problem with that was that Starlight had the complete power to mess up the timeline forever. She could have done this without an audience. Twilight being involved or not was a non-issue because Starlight held all of the leverage and Twilight couldn't even overpower her. She only brought Twilight along because she wanted her to suffer and watch her friendships fall apart. You could, again, also make the argument that she only brought Twilight because Twilight was the only pony she came across who could match her magical skills. When Twilight stopped her blast at the end of the Season 5 premiere, Starlight looked offended that someone could stop her powerful spell. So maybe she not only wanted to break Twilight, but prove she was better than her. You know, kick her while she's down. However, if Starlight's only goal was to break the spirit of a pony who screwed her over, then why not break the spirit of the pony that screwed her over, aka Fluttershy? And you can't tell me that Fluttershy, the element of kindness, couldn't have done a good job at helping to reform Starlight. Starlight was desperate for friendship, and Fluttershy could have done well helping her. I know that Fluttershy already has the credit of helping reform Discord, but it's not my fault the writers had her be the one to expose Starlight's lies. Since that's what they wrote, I'm only bringing up what would have been the next logical step in this storyline. The only conclusion I can come up with, then, is that we needed to have our main character be the focus, despite it not making as much sense. So what did we learn here, folks? Well, 1, Aloe likes to nitpick on obscure pony details that no one asked about, and 2, that the writers had a hard time fully giving credit where credit was due and letting the spotlight be on someone other than the main 6, and sometimes specifically Twilight, during some crucial parts of the story. I love MLP, but they were wrong for that. Fortunately, they didn't do this too much, and the show got comfortable having episodes and situations not focus on the main 6, but the problem did happen often enough, and especially at the end of the series, and that really bothered me. As mostly cool as I am with how the show ended, this left a bad taste in my mouth. Also, type out #Justice for Starlight in the comments. I know this wasn't purely about her, but it would tickle me to see that. Anyway, what do you guys think? Did you notice these redirections of credit were happening in the show? Let me know in the comments, and let's get this conversation started. But as for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.